So second underground stem modification, that is nothing but corn. What are the examples for corn means? One example, that is nothing but colocasia. And the another example, that is nothing but amorphophallus. Amorphophallus. This is one of the second example. First example, that is nothing but colocasia, and the second example, that is nothing but amorphophallus. Now here in this underground stem modification, namely known as corn, they given here the colocasia, it is one of the example, and another example, it is nothing but amorphophallus. Taking which diagram they explained here means that is nothing but colocasia as one of the example. That means colocasia, it is present in which shape means colocasia, it is present in cylindrical shaped. Colocasia, it is present in cylindrical shaped. And what happens means here, as it is one of the underground stem modification, it is differentiated into nodes and internodes. These are nothing but nodes, and the space which is present in between two nodes, it is called as internode. It is called as internode. And as you know very well that from the node, which one is arising means leaves are arising. That leaves are reduced into brown colored scaly leaves. These leaves are reduced into brown colored scaly leaves. That is nothing but a leaf modification. That is nothing but which colored leaf it is? Brown colored scaly leaf. It is nothing but brown colored scaly leaf. What is the main function of this brown colored scaly leaf? It protects axillary bud, it protects axillary bud, and it protects terminal bud. The function of the brown colored scaly leaf in underground stem modification, that is nothing but colocasia, which is one of the example for corn. In this, the brown colored scaly leaf, as it performs two functions, that is nothing but it protects not only axillary bud, it also protects terminal bud. That means from the axil of the scaly leaf, it gives rise to daughter corns. It gives rise to which one means as it gives rise to daughter corns. That is nothing but axillary bud. Axillary bud which is developing from the axil of the scaly leaf. This axillary bud, it gives rise to daughter corn. That is nothing but it plays an important role in vegetative propagation. It plays an important role in which process means vegetative propagation. And whereas the terminal bud, as it is very big, the terminal bud, it is very big, and it gives rise to aerial shoot. And it gives rise to which shoot means aerial shoot. That means this aerial shoot, they shows normal green leaves. This aerial shoot, they shows normal green leaves. That means this normal green leaves which are developed from the terminal bud, that means the terminal bud, it develops into aerial shoot. Aerial shoot contains normal green leaves. This normal green leaves can perform which process means photosynthesis. This normal green leaves, they can perform photosynthesis. That means it can prepare their own food material. From this food material, these food materials, they are moving from aerial shoot to downwards. So that is nothing but in which direction means basipetal direction. That is which direction means basipetal direction, and they are stored in underground stem, whereas in colocasia it is called as corn, and amorphophallus it is also called as corn. And what is the main one means this corn, it produces adventitious roots normally from the basal part of the corn. Normally from which part of the corn means from the basal part of the corn, normally adventitious roots are developing. Sometimes these adventitious roots, they are developing all over the corn. Sometimes these adventitious roots, they are developing all over the corn. That means adventitious roots not only develops from the base of the corn, sometimes it develops all over the corn. All over the corn. This is nothing but the corn, that is nothing but colocasia. Once again, colocasia, in this underground stem, it is present in which shape means it is present in cylindrical shape. It is present in which shape means cylindrical shaped. That means in this cylindrical shape, whether it is differentiated into nodes and internodes, yes, they are differentiated into nodes and internodes. From the node area, leaves are arising, but the leaves are reduced to brown colored scaly leaf. What is the function of the brown colored scaly leaf? As it protects terminal bud and as well as axillary bud. Normally adventitious roots develops from the basal part of the stem. Sometimes it develops all over the corn in colocasia. Whereas terminal bud, it is very big, it gives rise to aerial shoot. That means it gives rise to normal green leaves where it can perform photosynthesis and it can prepare their food materials. That food materials, they are moving in downward direction, they are moving in basipetal direction, and they are stored in corn of colocasia. Can you tell me in this corn of colocasia whether we can observe dimorphic leaves? Means yes, we can observe dimorphic leaves. That means in this it shows which type of leaves. Means dimorphic leaves. What are the dimorphic leaves? Means one, it is aerial normal green leaves, aerial normal green leaves, and the second one itself, it is nothing but brown colored scaly leaf. This is about the corn of colocasia. When we are moving towards corn of amorphophallus, in amorphophallus, whether it shows any shape, means in amorphophallus it does not show a definite shape. That means corn in amorphophallus, it does not show definite shape. It does not shows which one. Means it does not shows definite shape. What happens in amorphophallus means in this amorphophallus, it shows normal adventitious roots. It shows normal adventitious roots. Apart from normal adventitious roots in amorphophallus, it also shows a special type of root, that is nothing but contractile roots or pull roots. These roots are nothing but which roots? Means contractile roots are also called as pull roots. Are also called as which roots? Means pull roots. What is the main function of the contractile roots or pull roots? Means these contractile roots or pull roots, it keeps the corn in particular depth of the soil. That means it keeps the corn in particular depth of the soil. That is the function of the contractile roots or pull roots. Can you tell me in amorphophallus whether dimorphic roots can be seen? Means yes, the dimorphic roots can be clearly seen. Why? Because as it shows normal adventitious roots, as it shows specialized roots, that is nothing but contractile roots or pull roots, so it is showing dimorphic roots. It is showing which roots? Means dimorphic roots. That means here contractile roots or pull roots, it helps in absorption of water and minerals. But whereas these contractile roots or pull roots, it keeps the corn at particular depth of the soil. This is about the corn. This is about the underground stem modification, that is nothing but corn. This we completed this second type of underground stem modification, that is nothing but corn. So next goes to stem tuber. Next underground stem modification, that is nothing but stem tuber. In stem tuber, what is the main example? Means that is nothing but potato. That is nothing but which one? Means potato. What is the scientific name of potato? That is nothing but Solanum tuberosum. That is nothing but Solanum tuberosum. The scientific name of potato, as it is one of the good example for stem tuber, that is nothing but Solanum tuberosum. Can you tell me which family it belongs to? Means it belongs to the family namely known as Solanaceae family. It belongs to the family namely known as Solanaceae family. And this Solanaceae family, it is also called as potato family. This Solanaceae family, it is also called as which family? Potato family. That means we can discuss under the family namely known as Solanaceae. And whereas in this stem tuber, which branches, whether they are the roots can stores food materials? No. In underground stem modifications only, underground stems only stores food materials. That means in this potato, what happens? Means think this one is the stem. Think this one is the stem and think this one is the roots. These are nothing but roots and these are nothing but stem. This is nothing but which one here? Stem. In stem, what happens means the branches which are arising from the lower part of the stem. These branches which are developing from the lower part of the stem, they are penetrating into the soil. They are penetrating into the soil, and due to the storage of food materials, the tips of the branches, what I am saying, tips of the branches, they are getting bulged, they are getting swollen, they are getting tuberous. So due to which can we call that one as stem tuber? Yes, it is called as stem tuber. So here, due to the storage of food materials towards the tips of the branches, it becomes swollen, and due to which it becomes tuberous. As it is storing food material in stem, as it becoming tuberous, so can we call that one as stem tuber? Means yes, we can call it as stem tuber. In this stem tuber, it is covered by brown colored peridium. Stem tuber, it is covered by brown colored peridium. That means this brown colored peridium which is covering the potato, which is covering the stem tuber, it is covered by brown colored peridium. That means this peridium is not equal to the peridium which is formed during secondary growth, during extrastellar secondary growth. And what happens means in this stem tuber, it shows many eye-like structures. It shows which structures means it shows many eye-like structures. It shows many eye-like structures. It shows many eye-like structures, and this each eye-like structure, it shows semiluminar leaf scar. Each eye-like structure, it shows semiluminar leaf scar. What is meant by semiluminar leaf scar means semiluminar leaf scar. What is meant by semiluminar leaf scar? That means it represents the fallen position of scaly leaf. What is the use of this semiluminar leaf scar indicates means it represents the fallen position of scaly leaf. So it represents fallen position of scaly leaf. It represents fallen position of which leaf means scaly leaf. That means here it represents the fallen position of scaly leaf means here it contains an axil. No? So that means this scaly leaf, as it contains axil, it shows which bud means axillary bud. It shows which bud means axillary bud. What happens? This axillary bud gives rise to daughter stem tubers, which plays an important role in vegetative propagation. Means yes, this axillary buds, they plays an important role in vegetative propagation. That means it plays an important role in vegetative propagation. Means if, what I am saying, listen carefully, if this eye-like structure is cutted off, if it is cutted off with small amount of food materials, if this eye-like structure along with small amount of food materials, if they are sown in the soil, whether it gives rise to daughter potato plant, means yes, it gives rise to daughter potato plant. It gives rise to which plant means daughter potato plant. It gives rise to daughter potato plant. That means it plays an important role in vegetative propagation. Can you tell me, in this stem tuber, we studied about axillary bud, but whether we studied about the terminal bud? No. That means in stem tuber, terminal bud is absent. In stem tuber, which bud is absent means terminal bud is absent. But up to now we studied about rhizome, which shows axillary bud and terminal bud. But whereas corn, we also studied about axillary bud and terminal bud. In these two, axillary buds plays an important role in vegetative propagation. But whereas in the stem tuber also, it shows only axillary bud, which plays an important role in vegetative propagation, but it does not show terminal bud. And what is the food material which is stored in the solanum tuberosum means the food material which is stored in solanum tuberosum, that is nothing but which type of food material means starch. It is one of the food material which is stored in stem tuber. This is about stem tuber. Stem tuber means potato, solanum tuberosum family. Solanaceae, it is belonging to Solanaceae, it is also called as potato family. In these branches which are developing from the basal part of the stem, penetrates into the soil, grows into the soil. Due to the storage of food material, the tips of the branches get bulged, tips of the branches get tuberous, so it is called as stem tuber. When we see this stem tuber is covered with brown colored peridium, brown colored peridium. This peridium, it is not equal to the peridium which is formed during secondary growth. That means extrastellar secondary growth. And whereas this stem tuber shows many eye-like structures, each eye-like structure they show semiluminar leaf scar. Semiluminar leaf scar represents the fallen position of scaly leaf. And what happens in the axil of the semiluminar leaf scar? What happens? Axillary bud is present. This axillary bud plays an important role in vegetative propagation. How it plays an important role in vegetative propagation means a eye-like structure when it is cutted with some amount of food material, if it is sown in the soil, due to which it gives rise to daughter stem tuber, daughter potato plant. And here what happens means whether it shows dimorphic leaves in this stem tuber means yes, it shows dimorphic leaves. Why? Because as it shows brown colored, that is nothing but represents the fallen position of scaly leaf, means it contains scaly leaf. And whereas it shows aerial leaf means yes, it shows which leaves means aerial leaves are also present. Aerial normal green leaves are present. This aerial normal green leaves can perform photosynthesis, and that food materials they are moving towards the tip of the branches, due to which it stores food material, due to which it becomes bulging, due to which it becomes tuberous. So that's why it is called as stem tuber. This is about stem tuber. So next goes to bulb. So bulb, it is also one of the underground stem modification. How many examples can be studied under bulb means that first example, that is nothing but Allium cepa. Allium cepa. And the second example, that is nothing but Allium sativum. That is nothing but Allium sativum. This is called as a garlic. And the third example, that is nothing but Lilium candidum. Third example, that is nothing but Lilium candidum. And the fourth example, that is nothing but Scilla indica. That is nothing but which one means Scilla indica. That means under bulb, it is one of the underground stem modification. It shows how many examples means 4 examples. One, it is Allium cepa. Second one, it is Allium sativum. And third one, it is Lilium candidum. And fourth one, it is Scilla indica. And all these 4 plants, they belongs to the family namely known as Liliaceae. Belongs to the family namely known as Liliaceae family. And in this bulb, they taken which one as an example? Main example means it is nothing but based upon the Allium sativum diagram, they explained about this bulb. In this bulb, what happens means stem is whether the stem shows poor growth or whether it is showing good growth. Here the stem shows poor growth. Here the stem shows which growth means stem shows poor growth. Here the stem shows poor growth. That means stem is reduced into biconvex disc-like structure. Biconvex disc-like structure. That means here the stem, it is showing poor growth. That means it is not showing good growth. And whereas the stem is reduced into biconvex disc-like structure. Now what happens means from the base of the biconvex disc-like structure, which roots are arising means adventitious roots are arising. Which roots are arising means that is nothing but adventitious roots are arising. Which roots are arising means that is nothing but adventitious roots are arising from the base of the biconvex disc-like structure. That means whether this reduced biconvex disc-like structure, whether the nodes and internodes, whether they are far from one and each other or whether they are close to one and each other means, as it is a reduced biconvex disc-like structure, that is nothing but the stem. That means nodes and internodes are very closer to one and each other. That means nodes and internodes. Nodes and internodes are very closer to one and each other. Are very closer to one and each other. And now what happens means that means nodes and internodes are very closer to one and each other means the leaves which are arising from the nodes, whether they are overlapping one above the other means yes, the leaves which are developing from the nodes, as they are very closer to one and each other, due to which they are overlapping one above the each other, due to which leaves which are developing from nodes, they are overlapping one above the each other. They are overlapping one above the each other. Now what happens means here in this, the scaly leaf, whether it is showing two parts means yes, the scaly leaf it shows how many parts means two parts. The scaly leaf it shows how many parts means two parts. The apical portion of the scaly leaf, this is nothing but apical portion of scaly leaf. And this is nothing but the scaly leaf base. This is nothing but which one here? Scaly leaf base. Now what happens means apical portion of the scaly leaf, whether it is present a green in color or whether the basal portion of the scaly leaf base, whether it is present in green in color means here the apical portion of the scaly leaf it is present in green in color, due to which they can perform photosynthesis, due to which they can perform which one means photosynthesis, due to which they can perform a function namely known as photosynthesis, due to which they can prepare their own food materials. And these food materials, they are moving in which direction? They are moving in downward direction, that is nothing but basipetal direction. That is nothing but which direction means basipetal direction, due to which that food materials they are stored in which area? They are stored in scaly leaf base. Can we call the scaly leaf bases, whether they are called as fleshy scaly leaf bases? Yes, they are called as fleshy scaly leaf bases. They are called as fleshy scaly leaf bases. Why they are fleshy means due to the storage of water, due to the storage of water and due to the storage of food materials, they becomes fleshy. So we can call that scaly leaf base as fleshy scaly leaf bases. And what happens means these fleshy scaly leaf bases, as nodes are very closer to one and each other, these fleshy scaly leaf bases, they are overlapped one above the each other. They are overlapped one above the each other and they are arranged in this manner. That means they are arranged in the form of concentric rings. And what happens means the central portion of the bulb, it shows which bud means apical bud. It shows a bud namely known as apical bud. This apical bud, it gives rise to which one means this apical bud always gives rise to aerial inflorescence. This apical bud gives rise to aerial inflorescence. Aerial inflorescence. That means the terminal bud in rhizome, it gives rise to aerial shoot which shows green leaves, and whereas the shoot parts it shows. But whereas in the terminal bud of corn also gives rise to aerial shoot with leaves. But whereas in Solanum tuberosum, the terminal bud itself, it is completely absent. But whereas here in this bulb, terminal bud, it does not give rise to aerial shoot. It always gives rise to aerial inflorescence. It always gives rise to which part means aerial inflorescence. That means long elongated peduncle of the aerial inflorescence which are developing from the terminal bud. That is nothing but scape. It is called as scape. What is meant by scape? Long elongated peduncle which is developing from the terminal bud which gives rise to aerial inflorescence. This long elongated peduncle in the bulb, it is called as scape. It is called as which one means scape. Now what happens means in this bulb, in this allium sepa, what happens once listen here. This is called as terminal bud, I already explained. And apart from the, besides the terminal bud, it shows a bud namely known as axillary bud. It shows a bud namely known as axillary bud. Whether this axillary bud gives rise to daughter bulbs, this axillary bud gives rise to daughter bulbs. Axillary bud gives rise to daughter bulb means here the axillary bud plays an important role in vegetative propagation. Yes, here also the axillary bud which is present just beside the terminal bud, which is nothing but the axillary bud gives rise to daughter bulb. That means here in this bulb, this axillary bud, it plays an important role in vegetative propagation. Now what happens means the entire bulb, what I am saying, entire bulb is covered with a dry membranous tunic. Entire bulb is covered with, which one means this is nothing but a dry membranous tunic. Entire bulb, it is covered by dry membranous tunic. That means in allium cepa, that is nothing but onion. Already you have been identified. That is nothing but fleshy scaly leaf bases are covered with dry membranous tunic. Can you tell me what is meant by tunic? Tunic, it is also called as scaly leaf. Tunic, it is also called as scaly leaf. Can you tell me what is the difference between the scaly leaf and scaly leaf base? That is nothing but fleshy scaly leaf bases means fleshy scaly leaf bases, they stores food materials. And whereas this dry membranous tunic, it is nothing but scaly leaf, but it does not stores food materials. That means it does not stores food materials. It does not stores which materials here? Food materials. This is the difference between the dry membranous tunic, that is nothing but scaly leaf, and fleshy scaly leaf bases. Fleshy scaly leaf base is also called as a part of the scaly leaf, but it stores food materials and water, due to which they are becoming fleshy scaly leaf bases. But what happens here means in dry membranous tunic, it is also called as a scaly leaf, but it does not stores food materials. That means it covers the entire bulb and it protects the entire bulb. This is about allium cepa. This is about allium cepa. Now when we are moving towards this allium sativum, allium sativum. And what is the another important characteristic feature where we can study it under allium cepa? That is nothing but onion. That means in allium cepa, that is nothing but onion. In allium cepa, that is nothing but which one here? Onion. It is one of the underground stem modification where it does not stores food materials. Why? Because it is one of the underground stem modification where stem is reduced into biconvex disc-like structure. Biconvex disc-like structure, that means this biconvex disc-like structure, it does not stores food materials. It does not stores food materials. Why? Because already we studied about the first underground stem modification, rhizome, where the stem stores food materials. In corn also the stem stores food materials. Stem tuber also, the tips of the branches, they stores food materials. That is nothing but a part of the stem only, that is nothing but the branch. But in this bulb, allium cepa, the underground stem, as it is reduced to biconvex disc-like structure, it does not stores food materials. Another example, namely known as allium. In allium sativum, what happens means, in allium sativum, here also stem is reduced into biconvex disc-like structure. That means this stem, whether it stores food materials or it does not stores food materials. That means it does not stores food materials. It does not stores food materials. It does not stores which one here? Food materials. From the basal part of the underground disc-like stem here, which roots are arising? Adventitious roots are arising. And what happens means, in allium cepa, nodes and internodes are very closer to one and each other. Here also nodes and internodes are very closer to one and each other. But what happens in the allium cepa, that is nothing but onion, fleshy scaly leaf bases are overlapping one above each other. But whereas here means fleshy scaly leaf bases, they are not overlapping one above each other. They are loosely arranged. They are loosely arranged like this. They are loosely arranged. They are loosely arranged. That means here fleshy scaly leaf bases. Fleshy scaly leaf bases, they are not overlapping one above the other. Why? Because here the fleshy scaly leaf bases, they are not overlapping one above each other. They are not overlapping one above each other. In this, what happens means, in this fleshy scaly leaf bases, whether they are loosely arranged means, yes, they are loosely arranged. Each fleshy scaly leaf, whether it is overlapping one above each other, no, they are not overlapping one above each other. Now what happens here means, each fleshy scaly leaf base is covered by dry membranous tunic. Each fleshy scaly leaf base is covered by which tunic means? Covered by dry membranous tunic. It is covered by dry membranous tunic. There, the complete bulb in Allium cepa is covered with dry membranous tunic. But whereas in Allium sativum, the complete bulb is not covered by dry membranous tunic. Each fleshy scaly leaf base is covered by dry membranous tunic. Can we call whether this tunic it is nothing but the scaly leaf? Yes. But whether this stores food materials? No. This dry membranous tunic, it is scaly leaf where it does not stores food materials. Where it does not stores which material means food materials. And one more thing here, the complete bulb in Allium sativum, it is covered by whitish skinny tunic. It is covered by which one means whitish skinny tunic. It is covered by whitish skinny tunic in Allium sativum. That means, what are the differences between the bulb in Allium cepa, bulb in Allium sativum means, bulb in Allium cepa, leaves are overlapping, scaly leaves are overlapping one above each other, but yet whether they are overlapping one above each other? No, they are not overlapping one above each other. They are loosely arranged. Each loosely arranged fleshy scaly leaf base is covered with dry membranous tunic. That means each fleshy loosely arranged scaly leaf base, it is covered by dry membranous tunic, and the complete bulb, it is covered with whitish skinny tunic, as it is one of the characteristic features of Allium sativum, which comes under the example namely known as bulb. So this is about bulb we completed. That means we completed all underground stem modifications.